NewsNation border correspondent Ali Bradley live for us tonight. Ali, what is Governor Abbott saying?
Yeah, hi, Natasha. So this move reportedly being proposed by the Biden administration, as you might imagine, kicking up some more dust in this fight between Texas and Washington. Governor Greg Abbott promising swift action against the president.
Sources confirming a report that the White House wants to keep some asylum seekers and illegal border crossers in Texas while they wait for asylum screenings. Texas Governor Greg Abbott quickly pushing back on the proposal, calling it a, quote, scam that was tried years ago and was shot down by a judge, before promising to send President Biden, quote, the same swift justice. Under the White House plan, families that would be held in Texas are part of the Family Expedited Removal Management, or FIRM, program. About 600 families in total are in the program right now. To monitor the families, the head of the household will get an ankle monitor and a phone to track their whereabouts. The El Paso sector is apparently preparing to roll this practice out as early as Monday, according to DHS sources familiar with the plan. The goal of the White House, to slow the number of buses being sent by Governor Abbott to major cities across the U.S. Over the last 2 years, Governor Abbott's busing mission has sent more than 35,000 migrants across the country. Just this week, New York Mayor Adams saying that the cost of the migrant crisis will, quote, destroy New York City, which has seen more than 13,000 bust into the Empire State. Washington, D.C. has received more than 11,000 asylum seekers via bus, Chicago nearly 7,000, and more than 2,600 in Philadelphia. Back along the southern border, the number of families crossing reached an all-time high in August, more than 93,000 families detained, as a Texas governor threatens to send even more buses nationwide.
You have Governor Abbott that's putting the measures there to take care of his state. That's what it comes down to. And at the same time, while he's doing that, he's taking care of the United States as a whole.
The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has. We've expanded the pathway to citizenship under this president. And mind you, he's been doing this on his own.
Now, we've seen a move similar to deter migrant families. Back in the 80s, the Reagan administration, Natasha, actually did something similar where migrants that crossed, they would stay in the area that they crossed into, namely Texas, while their asylum case played out. They would get their asylum hearing results right then and there. And of course, we're kind of seeing that with families again under the Biden administration.
And Ali, I appreciate you tracking that. And meanwhile, I know there's another story, a new incident that we are just getting confirmation on. American tourists apparently caught in the crossfire of cartel activity. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Obviously, Governor Abbott trying to secure the border, saying that the federal government isn't doing that. But we're seeing the cartel activity really ramping up on the Mexico side. So this is in the same area, Natasha, where we saw those 4 Americans kidnapped back in March, where 2 of them were killed. Now, this is in Tamaulipas, and CBP, Customs and Border Protection, confirming to us that 7 individuals were injured in a shooting that was reportedly between cartel rivals, between cartel gangs there. Now, 7 of these individuals reportedly arrived to the Roma port of entry early this morning in Texas by way of 2 Mexican ambulances. Now, the first people on scene were reportedly Mexican officials as well. Now, of these individuals, we know that the majority of them were U.S. citizens, some were legal residents, and one was also a Mexican national. Now, we also can tell you here that this caravan of tourists, it was around 15 to 20 people that were traveling through this area when they were caught in that crossfire. Now, these groups were also using armored vehicles, Natasha. They're these armored vehicles that they're referring to as monsters or monsteros, and they're armored. They are geared up with rifles, with artillery. They're impenetrable. So that is what they were apparently using. And this area of Miguel Alemán, and these tourists were apparently collateral damage in this incident. Now, the U.S. State Department did say to us that we are aware of reports of a recent incident in which several U.S. citizens were injured. Now, people there were saying that everybody knows that you do not travel there, Natasha, in these late night hours or these early morning hours, which, of course, is when this incident occurred.
Okay, we appreciate those confirmed details. Ali Bradley with that live report. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.